have our next speaker. This is Dawn, and she is the Director of Community and Developer Relations at Anaconda. She will be talking to us about the life cycle of a Jupyter environment. Thank you very much, Dawn.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, I'm also going to check with the cameras and the tech. Do you need me here? Here? Does it matter?
It doesn't matter.
All right, cool. You said it doesn't matter, so if it matters later, it's on you. All right, hi, Dawn Wages, she, her pronouns. I came here from Philadelphia to Boston. It is very cold, but I am wearing a lot of layers today. And hello to everybody online. Thanks so much for giving me the platform to speak to you all today. So we're going to be talking to the life cycle of a Jupyter notebook. This was also a talk that I gave at JupyterCon and got a lot of really great feedback in the hallway. And if you're interested in giving me feedback on this presentation, please do in the hallway. I'll be at the Anaconda booth, and we have a raffle going so you can win books. And we have a good number, so you have a really good chance if you're here in person to get that raffle. If you'd like to follow along, please check out the QR code. So who am I? TLDR, I volunteer for the community a lot. You may have seen me in the Python Software Foundation ecosystem. Hopefully you'll see me a lot more around the NumFocus and SciPy ecosystem as well. But I'm growing in this community. This is me doing a bit of a full circle moment. I came out of school with a business degree, but really wanted to get into data science. This was like near kind of the buzzword boom, the big data 2016 of it all, but got enamored with the community, specifically the Django community, had been volunteering ever since, moved to a Python generalist, brought my business background back in with developer relations and some marketing functions, but really have stayed a technologist. And so this has been a marriage of my software development skills with the kind of growing up of a Jupyter environment and some of my long-standing and brushing off some of my data science and machine learning skills. So the examples you'll see as the growing up version of this Jupyter environment will also have machine learning capabilities in there too, AI machine learning. If you are interested in keeping up with me online, we have you can check out the Anaconda YouTube. It's getting started. It's coming back. We're breathing life into it. And there's a live stream happening this Friday. I'm interviewing the engineering manager for Conda and the product manager for Conda that works at Anaconda. We gave away the Conda project to NumFocus. It's being fiscally sponsored by NumFocus. Woo! We love sustainable open source. But we still have a dedicated team contributing to it at Anaconda, and so we'll be talking about it from our vantage. And so in my capacity at DevRel, one of the most interesting things that I get to do is also get feedback from you all. And so this is one of the prime ways that I get feedback for you all. This is another QR code. There's only two, this presentation and this one. And this one, if you do anything with Python, you can take this survey. There's 23,000 respondents and counting. This was launched at PyCon US 2025, and it will go until December 31st anywhere on Earth. And then we will report all of the open data in the first quarter of the year. So we'll do the open surveys that you might have taken better, and we'll do it one better, and we're opening up the data for everyone. So if you're interested in contributing your perspective at any skill level on the Python packaging ecosystem, please contribute. The QR code will be on my last slide as well if you missed this one. So the agenda, so first we're going to, so this is all about the life cycle of maturation of a Jupyter environment. We're going to start by setting our objectives for our Jupyter notebook. We'll go into understanding modular notebooks. This is when I infuse the software engineering principles that I really love. Then we'll choose the right tools. We'll talk about reproducible environments, and then talk about deploying resilient projects. This is also very high level, so there's going to be a fair number of words on the screen, or then a fair number of icons, but hopefully this can be an opportunity to go back to it and help with referencing later. So I'm a project manager at heart. I commonly start my presentations with, well, are you talking about it first? I've done this many times before, but before I get my head around a task, I really want to start with a proof of concept and then have a conversation before I go off on a half day of tinkering. As an approach, it's not a terrible one, but if you build in feedback loops that continue to iterate, if you're on the wrong track, you may have only lost a half day, but you may have lost a week or so without checking in with your colleagues. So the problem with that now, all of my future conversations, even with that only a half day of tinkering, are tainted by the work that I've already done before, not wanting to reiterate. So really bring your colleagues early, try to understand the domain problem and scope, and step back with a clear mind. And I'm starting a software engineering conversation or presentation with, please start a conversation, please do it. And I say again to all of my technologists, start with conversations. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So I love a kickoff meeting. It's where you drive rapport. You can connect with your concerns directly. You can be comfortable with I don't know and let's research that. And then you can also move forward with a dependency matrix. If you're familiar with RACI, where it's a responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed, and then allow for documentation. If it's not the most important, it is one of the most important parts of your project. So I really want to underscore how code is really the second step of getting started. And then you'll want to set your objectives. Last slide on this. Second to last slide on this, understanding your outcomes that changes or impacts you want to achieve. Outputs are changeable products, both matter, but outcomes drive the science forward. Setting clear objectives allow the room to pivot and then discover something unexpected. And then milestones allow for you to set incremental check-in points. One of my favorite things before I go, it's a little bit corny, but you might find me saying it a little bit more, but accountability is opportunity for celebration. I say that a lot. It gets a little bit of eye rolls, but I think it sets the tone for the room. And then why does this matter? This brings some of the, for lack of a better term, soft skills. I really enjoy the term soft skills. I know there's a culture divide of kind of removing soft skills from our environment, but I want to celebrate soft skills. Who doesn't like to be soft? I like to be soft. Because the knowledge that you share will likely have in the kickoff call will translates to domain expertise. I also have a background in domain-driven design. There's a book on pause about domain-driven design, but this is really referencing some of that. And if you're not familiar, I would recommend looking into it. Take what's interesting, leave what's not, but it really does put the subject matter and domain expert first and translate some of those variables. For example, naming things is incredibly hard, and those variables should translate all the way through your architecture. And so if it's not doing that and you have obscured name things, and someone can't just look at your code and kind of poke around and understand where things go, it means you may be on the wrong track, and talk to your domain expert so you can get better framework and taxonomy for these things. Oh, I also want to call out specifically, this is also going to be a little bit of a life cycle assessment. So you want to know how far you're going to need to push your project. And so some of the platform concerns and resource constraints will really bubble up at this point too, if you're doing it well. And hopefully we are. Next, we'll get into modular notebooks. So this is kind of the nuts and bolts of how to do it. You'll want to identify reusable chunks in your notebook. Extract functions with clear inputs and outputs. One of my favorite parts of this understanding inputs and outputs is you get the understand the boundaries of each of these closed systems that you end up building, and then you can have an interoperability layer. Sometimes people consider those maybe a service layer, or these can be core reusable functions, so you can put them in your utils document. I also show a document structure a little bit later in the presentation. You'll want to move a lot of this functionality out from your .py files. They may be shell scripts, they may be YAML, they may just stay in your notebook. Out of your notebook, maybe into some PY files. And then you'll want to import and use a clean notebook. So you'll know that it's working well if you start with a clean notebook, you run a few lines that are really accessible and make sense, and then it pulls in functionality from other places. And for bonus points, add tests. This is probably a staple. This makes your components maintainable, testable, and scalable. It removes the urge to have that stinky, smelly spaghetti code, and it's difficult to know what needs to be run and if it's run in order. So this is an element, one of the elements in building maintainable systems, specifically for machine learning, is your extraction, transform, and then load of your data, the ETL. This is mostly your data engineering. It's the process of taking that data from your data store, from its sources to your data store. For ML scenarios, the transformation can include feature engineering, which is the process of transforming that raw data into features and input variables. And in green, I have examples of methods, and in yellow, I have examples of particular classes. And these next few slides will really scratch the itch if you like to dig deeper into understanding some of these domain-driven design kind of architecture patterns and others. I really recommend the book Designing Data-Intensive Applications. It's one of my favorites. I have it like highlighted and post-it noted all up, and it's next to my desk every day. I also recommend looking into software architecture design patterns in Python. So this is a builder pattern. I really like this one. It like gives me tingles in my brain. I really enjoy it. I'm using it specifically to build a class called ETL pipeline. And in my etl.py file, I initialize the object with steps that's in an empty list. And then I add methods for adding a step and executing. If you see at the bottom, we're defining steps like extract, validate, and clean. And then snippets like this can be helpful in guiding you towards a project that scales more effectively. You're also able to identify problem code better, and in these patterns, at least to me, are really fun. And they add to some developer joy. I'll stay on this for a second as people are looking. All right. Another class I want to share leverages modules from scikit-learn. So again, one of the best parts of being in open source and developing in the open, like we hopefully we're all encouraged to do in this room, is leveraging things that we didn't build ourselves. So I'm not an expert on all of the tooling that exists in ML systems. As I told you, this is kind of a full circle moment for me. I know MLflow, for example, will track your model changes, for example, but helpful modules like this are really a godsend when you're just getting started. And similar to how we had a transformer file, we can have a training and evaluation file. Again, in green, blue, I have the methods, and then I have classes in class examples in yellow. From model.trainer, we can import model trainer. From modeling.evaluator, we can import model evaluator. And from modeling.cross_validation, we can import cross validator. We'll use the data input to train and create these models, and then we'll evaluate and compare these models and understand what the output means. So this is a process, kind of a high-level process on what we're doing across the bottom. And last but not least, let's talk about environment deployment. There are so many different ways, and honestly, there's caveats to the pros and cons on all of them on deploying, your Jupyter environment. The ones that I've been using lately, I've been playing a lot with Snowflake, and so that's been really fun. I am hesitant to tell you to build your own, because a lot of the intricacies that happen with needing a model also connected to a cloud infrastructure, and then also having like a one button click to run, but also having the traceability, I've been really leaning on the hyperscalers. So the AWS SageMaker, Snowflake, I've been playing with Azure in my previous role. So the deployment can use all different types of tools. Many I over-index on the CLI, but if you do like one button click, I recommend trying out Snowflake. For lightweight notebooks, when done effectively, you'll want to, what's common, and this is my favorite pattern, having a notebooks at the top of the file, and then having them separated and named by their functionality, and then having source underneath with all of the reusable components. And then there is a common practice to having contrib, or some people call that maybe app, or app config, and then a YAML file as well. Next is choosing right tools. I did some allusion to some of my favorite tools in the previous section. Old school approach was using one monolithic architecture for an on-prem database, and then the rest you're building yourself with SQL, cron jobs, shell script, and you had to do it on Windows. Now, the majority of production deploys are happening on Linux distributions. Open source wins. We have flexible architecture, and they come chock-a-block full of features like GUIs, UI pipeline creation, and you can choose exotic hardware options like NVIDIA GPU. So this new school approach, this is all of what I've been playing with most recently. Obviously at the top is Jupyter. I've been really a fan of prefix.dev's Pixie tools. So if you're interested in using the Anaconda environment, if you're using Conda Forge, but you would like a new approach, there's a pattern that's happening in package managers in Python. I love microtrends. Put me on Instagram. But there's a pattern in package managers where you have project management paradigm where all of the artifacts for that particular project lives in the directory of that project right next to it, while as the default for Conda is global. There's a use for that. If you want to use a type of environment for a whole bunch of different projects and you want it globally, I love that, but Pixie does natively use or intuitively use the project structure, and so you can use that. ML Flow is for tracking your model changes. Amazon Bedrock is the hyperscaler I've been using lately. Snowflake has been really fun to play around with. They have a really beautiful, intuitive user interface, and they've been playing around with, they've launched a couple of new IDE interfaces lately, so then that's been nice. I do recommend watching out for your the rating and the cost, because it can grow pretty quickly, but they also have a really nice cost tool, and you can see, and they also project how much you'll be spending by the end of the month. So I really appreciate that as well. For data visualization, I've been playing with PyScript, HoloViz, and Bokeh. Special shout out to PyScript. We have stickers in the back. If you want to do Python in the browser, this is like WebAssembly under the hood. It's really fun to play with and easy to get started. And shout out to my friend Rodrigo, who did a Pokemon battler thing in PyScript using a lot of data. He's also speaking at this conference. Maybe he'll talk to you about it in the hallway track, but you can do some really cool things with PyScript. So I went through all of them. This is them broken up a bit. So Pixie Conda, how do I manage dependencies? Rapids is a way that you can interact with your architecture, where you'll have GPU-enabled compute, so without any code changes. So you'll, for example, if you want like pandas, for example, you can use parts of the Rapids libraries, and it'll be GPU enabled. So how do I make this faster with GPU? And then ML Flow, how do I track my experiments? Jupyter, how do I explore data interactively? Papermill is how do I automate that notebook? And Snowflake is where do I store and query this massive data? I'm going to go deeper into Papermill and MLflow, but it's only a couple of slides. Papermill will let you execute your Jupyter notebook with different parameters. So this one's really cool for when you are running the same experiment over and over again, but you're going to use different data sets. So like if you're running a Python script with command line arguments, but for notebooks. If you want to turn your notebook into a parameterized automated workflow, this is what you'll want to use. It's relatively easy install, conda install Papermill, or you can do pixie add Papermill. And then you'll have you can do automated reporting, batch processing, A/B testing, or you can set up some of your client deliverables reproducibly with Papermill. And this is an example of feeding in some parameters. I won't go too deep to make sure I'm covering time. MLflow will track your experiments, and you'll never lose track of what you worked on. So some of the four core components are tracking, setting up your projects, your models, and your registry. And there's a built-in UI if you're into UIs. Choosing right tools, look to your left, look to your right. That's probably where you're going to figure out your best tools. I think recommendation means way more than anything I find online. A lot of people are leaning into AI to suggest tools for them. I think that's fine. It's just a synthesis of the friends next to you, and you'll probably get better anecdotes from the people next to you, so I pick people first. However, if you are a tool maker, I recommend you making all of your documentation easily crawlable by these AI solutions, because there are a lot of things that we can do for risk mitigation as AI is happening in the ecosystem, but there is a definite level of accessibility that it is providing for us that the community is latching onto. So ignoring that just means your tool is not going to be able to be discovered. I'm happy to have really nuanced conversations about what AI is doing to the ecosystem out in the hallway, and I appreciate all of them. Yeah. Oh, and then first-party tools. If you handle first-party tools and you have a favorite third-party tool, please recommend them in your own documentation. People love that. And let's go into reproducible environments. I have like maybe 4 slides about reproducible environments. So at this point, the ecosystem is really growing, and we're spinning around this project called Wheel Next. It is thinking about the next format for Python packaging. Anyone remember the egg format for Python? Yeah. So this is not quite new, that we are doing something new. We're always evolving. So PyPI does well with compiling C and C++ and Rust code for common packages, but it's better when there's no conflicts within the system. Pillow bundles libjpeg and libpng. But where PyPI and Pip fall short are systems libraries that are outside the Python ecosystem. So this is where Conda, being a polyglot or a language agnostic environment manager, has done really well. And so we are part of the Wheel Next initiative along with Meta and NVIDIA and lots of other people who are really excited about it, Astral. And hopefully we'll be able to contribute some of our learnings of doing this for a very long time into the next iteration of Python package formats. Multiple packages linking to the same system libraries, another kerfuffle. There's no guarantee that there are compatible versions where they can't enforce everyone to use the same, for example, like Open Blast. This is getting a little deep in the weeds, but hopefully it doesn't give people like nightmares who have had to deal with some of these things themselves. And each wheel bundles independently, another headache. So also, I'd love for you to all consider your hardware. I've been playing with the Rapids library lately. It's relatively new. I've been really excited about the opportunities that NVIDIA and other GPU manufacturers are bringing to the ecosystem. If you find, or if you personally have use cases that you feel that GPU unlocks what you're doing, NVIDIA's here, go find them, hang out with them, but I would love to have a conversation. I'm learning a little bit more about what these edge cases are, or what these cases are, and I'd love to talk with you. Cloud resources are great for novel architecture if you do not have the opportunity to buy some of this hardware yourself, and Rapids has a platform page where you can see all of the service providers that have NVIDIA GPU enabled on their computing environment. And then binary dependencies. This is the last slide on this one. I recommend, I lied, this is actually the last QR code. One of my team members, Giannis Lydell, and others created a blog post series. This is the first one. PyPI is not Conda, and it helps with differentiating what Conda does novelly in the ecosystem. And last but not least, let's deploy a resilient project. So this is a little bit hand-wavy, one slide for this. I want you all to have automated testing and staged rollbacks, please. I would love for you all to have health checks and monitoring, please. Safe and repeatable steps. This is called idempotency. Retry logic and feature flags are great. There's specifically when you're doing like things with retry logic as well, make sure that you have rate limiting or load shedding and limits for your resources, like I kind of alluded to with Snowflake. If you're running a couple, I kept checking back at my cost tab to see how much everything costs to run, but make sure being careful about some of those things. And then logging, observability, and alerting. All of these are available in the cloud providers, or excuse me, in your hyperscaler cloud providers. This is borrowed from another slide at another conference, but I really like it. So these are the pipeline management considerations that I have. It is a bit of a brain dump, but this is what I like one-pagers that I can reference. And so the 5 subsections: task complexity, hardware considerations, experimentation and collaboration, developer tools, and your application development are all sub-considerations, and then I'll have kind of subcategories. If this is interesting to you, take a picture. Hopefully this could be a reference for you. I definitely reference it when I'm starting new presentations. And that's it from me. I appreciate all of your time. Hopefully I gave you something to think about. And if you have any feedback on how this presentation can be improved or how I can help you with your workflow or your Anaconda environments, please let me know. I'm at the booth. Thank you. Sure, I'll take questions. Friend in the back.
So I was just curious. So you talked about a couple of different ways of productionizing. The one you talked about, like tools like Papermill, which take you to be able to kind of execute the notebooks.
Yep.
You also talked about actually kind of going through that process of productionizing it yourself, like converting and writing it into Python files and YAML files and building like pipeline constructs and things. So I think there's also like that third approach, which is like kind of gaining some popularity of like making the notebooks themselves like more production ready, more executable, and things like that. I'm just curious, like from Anaconda's perspective, like is there like any interesting stuff that you all are looking at, working at in this space? Like I know that there are others who are also looking at it. So
Great question. So we talked about paper mills and parameterization. We talked about productionizing and moving code out from the notebook other places, and that's a way to make it more production ready. And there's a third approach that some people are considering, which is making the notebook itself more production ready. I think there's tools that are coming up. I think would Marimo fit that category? Marimo is super cool, and I think they just got acquired, so like good for them. There's work coming. If you if you feel like giving your email address at the booth, we have some things coming in future quarters. I can't really talk about them now, but like just really cool things afoot. But yeah, it's definitely something that Anaconda specifically is thinking about. Peers in the ecosystem are thinking about. And I did do a pretty significant shout out to Snowflake a couple times because I've been impressed with their system. It's definitely an enterprise tool, and you get that free month, but like a month is 30 days is never enough. So I would recommend looking into some of these enterprise tools, but people are doing some build your own as well. And a lot of cool stuff happening at JupyterCon. I met DeepNode and some other friends, and it's been pretty cool to see that grow. So yeah, great question. Any more? Friend over here in the red.
Yeah, I'm back in the job market again.
Sure.
And I see you who you clearly have soft skills as a strength. And in a field where, like you said, there's kind of a divide and I wonder how I love that you led the presentation with how important it is to bring that in and to set the objectives and bring that forward. And I wonder how you go about selling that when you start a project, because that's something that is something that I have always tried to bring forward, and it's a battle.
Yep.
And I come from this human social service field,
Yep.
and it's just an uphill battle.
Yeah.
And any wisdom you can share, I would just love to hear.
Sure. So the context is we have a friend who comes from the human and social service field. I mentioned in the beginning how communication is one of the first steps that you want to do, how it's really important, and then especially as the job market is what it is right now, and it's a little scary. How do we position ourselves, or how do we sell that in these conversations? I think what underneath some of that is a bit of like credibility kind of setting, buy-in setting, leadership and authenticity. And I will also put in the fact that like she, her pronouns, I come from marginalized backgrounds, and I have good friends. I reach out and I talk to really bright people, and I have this little cadre, different channels for different things, and I'll say, am I missing something? And they'll go, no, friend, you're not missing something. Or even more importantly, yes, friend, you were absolutely missing something. Let's chat about it. So it's hard in that context to separate my marginalized background in my perception from kind of understanding how my soft skills interact with the way that I communicate. But one of the ways that I think I did this a bit in the presentation, so I'll also take a step back. Part B of the answer may be frameworks that have already been tried and true. So the domain-driven design is one that I was really surprised, authored by people who are not necessarily on the margins, and has gained notoriety and has been around since about 2003, and based off of a lot of different MVC type model view controller software architecture patterns. And that one emphasizes communication frameworks. And so if that guy that you respect values communication and I value communication, we can value communication together, friend. Let's start this conversation, and then we can get into the code. Just hold tight, and then I'll give you a cookie at the end of the meeting, I swear. So let's be friends, and maybe we can be part of the cadre together. Friend here.
Yeah, just to speak to that, I'm a very analytical person, but I know from experience that if you don't have those meetings and get buy-in, the project goes sideways. So, get friends on your side who have that perspective and can speak to that.
Yeah, and a cosign for kind of getting that buy-in. We have a friend who's mentioned that it could go sideways if we don't start some of that level-setting conversations and getting buy-in, and I appreciate that. Awesome. What's the time look like? Another question?
You got like 5 minutes.
Sure. Any more? Friend up here.
I had a question, Dawn.
Sure.
I watched the Python documentary, and I didn't know about PyLadies.
Yeah.
And I just was curious to hear more about it. Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
As an ally...
Can I do something unorthodox and hand it to a friend? Yeah. So we had a question about PyLadies, and I'd love to hand it to a friend to answer about PyLadies. If you would like to stand up, whichever you'd like.
Okay, this was definitely unplanned. Hi, everybody. I'm Faye, and I'm from Boston PyLadies. And our friend here asked, PyLadies is a global organization of 250 plus chapters from around the world, and we just concluded PyLadies Con. It was the 5th through 7th. It was 36 hours of consecutive talks to cover all the time zones of the world. And if you are here, if you live in Boston, talk to me, join our chapter. If you are from elsewhere, join your local chapter. I will try to help you find it. And it's a global mentoring group, and we go to PyCon. Every chapter has its own different way of operating. Personally, PyLadies Boston, we have a monthly online meetup, and then we sprinkle in some social events, talks with Boston Python. We've collaborated with PyData. So in the new year, again, we will have these virtual events. Come find me, and we look forward to more events in the future. Thank you.
And we're just like, I'm so thankful that you even came up and talked. You must be exhausted after the Ladies event.
I did not run it.
Okay, good, all right. You could be exhausted attending that amazing event. Thanks so much. And thanks for the question, that was really great. More questions? All right, it's been lovely. Thanks so much.
Thank you.